You're listening to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, aimed at helping photographers learn how to make the leap from amateur to pro. Hello, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, a joint effort brought to you by PhotoFocus and Skip Cohen University. This is Shamira Young, and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Skip Cohen. Skip, how are you?
I got a fantastic today.
Capital F, fantastic.
It's been a year or more since I got a fantastic. I've had a couple amazings and talented, but never fantastic.
Well, you've earned it.
Hey, we've got a great podcast today.
Yeah. I'm
excited.
Know why. I'm pumped. Please tell us.
Well, Will Cadena is in the Mind Your Own Business house today.
What?
It is a
Watch
kick.
out.
Oh, he's back there. He's not supposed to. His lips aren't supposed to move yet. He's not following the cues.
Sorry.
Anyway, what a kick it is to catch up to him. He never slows down, and in fact, he is proof that hyperactive kids can grow up and have incredible careers. But I have to tell everybody, he's more than just a talented artist and educator. He's an amazing buddy to so many of us in the industry. And he's one of those energy-driven people who come into your life, and then you don't remember a time when he wasn't there. He's a photographer. He's an educator. He's one of the most enthusiastic artists I've ever known. And all it takes to get to understand that enthusiasm is to watch him in action at a workshop or convention. You'll completely understand what I mean. So, Will, welcome to Mind Your Own Business. Now's the time for your lips to move.
You know what? I don't even want to talk right now. Whatever.
Well, that was one of the most
that's
awesome,
the way this is going to go.
Enthusiastic jump-ins that we've ever had on the show. I thought it was awesome.
Well, guys, thanks so much for having me, and it's an honor. I'm glad it worked out because I'm sure you guys, your schedule is crazy. My schedule is insane right now, but I'm honored to be here. So, yeah, let's talk about life, I guess. Let's talk about everything. So, how does this work? Break it down.
I love this. This is going to be a party. So, Will, one of the first things we love to do is to kick it off with our favorite first question, just in case any of our listeners don't know who you are, if they're living under a rock somewhere. So, can you tell us about your background, how you got started, and how you ended up doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, of course. So, as stated, Will Cadena. I'm based out of New York City. Manhattan, New York. That's where my business is based out of. Before COVID, we were traveling internationally, globally, for anywhere between commercial, corporate, and also weddings. And I've been in the business for close. I think I started around 1999 through my family business. Through my uncle. I have two uncles. One's a portrait and wedding photographer, and the other one is a commercial fashion photographer. So I just got into the business in that way. You know, I started learning from both trades. I started during the film days. I learned pretty much the old school way is like you come in as an assistant, you be a bag holder, you just hold on a bag, making sure you're watching the medium format, Hasselblad cameras, and from there I eventually graduated into being a third assistant, then second assistant. Second assistant will be a double light assistant. And eventually I graduated to being a first assistant. And first assistant's pretty much just literally it's almost like a photographer, but they set up everything. They make sure the team members are doing what they're doing. The lighting is 110%. The light meter reading is perfect. They set up the camera on a tripod. And when the photographer shows up, all they have to do is pose the client and shoot. So I'm very fortunate I started in that way because I feel like this industry alone, just people, which again, you buy a camera and you start shooting and that's it, then it looks like it's a longer curve to learn things because you're always behind the camera instead of learning the format. So that's a little bit more of my history on how I got into the business. And what else? So.
Well, it's funny because you were talking about how you got started as an assistant. I did an article there was a spin-off of Photo District News. I don't remember what the name of it was, but it's probably 20 years ago. And I wrote an article for them after interviewing Nick Vidros and Dean Collins on what they were looking for in assistants. And when it came to looking for an assistant, what they were always looking for is that the initial start is whatever we ask. They didn't want direction. They know you're out of photo school and they know you've got an interest in photography, but they had no interest in understanding or getting your input in a particular shot. It was just, here's what we need. We need you to move the bags around, move the lights around, clean up the studio at the end of a shoot, and just be there. And it was amazing how many times they got somebody in an assistant job that thought they were coming on and were going to start shooting on the very first day. Yeah. And really, they just wanted to know, hey, can you follow directions? And that was all part of the education, which kind of leads me into something that you've got in your About page. Share a little bit of your philosophy behind your own education, because we talk about it all the time, and yet I think there's still so many photographers that get to that point and say, okay, I understand it all. Now I'm just going to go out, hang out my shingle and shoot. And they don't recognize the importance that we're an industry where you got to continue your education and keep growing.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. I'm all about, educating yourself as much as possible. Yeah, that's one thing about YouTube. I wish we had this resources back in the day. When I say back in the day, yes, I'm a young pup. All right, Skip, don't harass me. All right. So.
Well, actually, it's funny. You said you started in around 99.
Yeah, about 99.
I was at Hasselblad from 87 to 99, so I never got to pick on you until a few years ago.
Well, I shot medium format for several years and 35 millimeter film, and I made the transition. So, yeah, I saw the progression during that time for me. But going back to the education part, again, I'm sure some people might know, or they follow me, or they've been to my workshops. I always bring up, since I was in kindergarten to college, I was in special ed. So I had a big learning disability, reading and writing. And for me personally, it was very hard in school. So I later on learned I was more of a visual person. So it's one thing, these days it's like, all right, great. We're educators. We teach on our conferences, Zoom and in person. But I think especially with educators, they forget, I'm an educator, but what about teaching yourself again? Like I just got back from a conference out in
Tucson.
Tucson, thank you.
Tucson,
Tucson. And I went there. It was called the Photos Creators Conference and Experience, and it was for Roberto Valenzuela. And I know Roberto a long time, and I've been taking his workshops over the years. I mean, I still pay my dues. I'm not looking for something for free, because I know by me investing in it, buying a product, I'm gonna cherish it more, and I know I'm gonna get the money back. So we went away for a week for this conference, and we missed that, especially being locked down in COVID. Everything was on Zooms and YouTube learning, and there's only so much of that you could do. But building those relationships in person, and I think besides learning on site, also relating to other people and connecting with other people, and even like the students. It's still to this day, even when I teach or when I'm actually a student, I learn so much from other students around me. So there's always something to learn. So I notice a lot of, I guess, I don't like to say the older generation because it's not true. I think it's also the new generation. They just don't feel that they don't need to know anymore, or they don't want to learn anymore, because it bites you in the butt. And that's when people constantly complain, oh, well, you don't understand my city, we cannot get those prices. Or, well, you don't understand. No, you're just making excuses. Mm. It's all about relating to people. And yes, the technical part is important, and having the technology, it does help. But I think people these days forget how to build relationships and connect with people. And actually, you got to give a shit about people. If you want people to get about you, you need to give a shit about other people as well. And personally, I'm the kind of person, I just care. And I try to treat people how I want to be treated. And again, I'm very fortunate because the people I work with, my clients, they actually do care. They care, they value our time, and they know we value their time. So it's a partnership. So yeah, I mean, that's more the education part for me in that aspect, if that makes sense.
There's a great line about education that growth only occurs outside your comfort zone. And as we come out of this pandemic, and there are a few different, you were just at one conference in Tucson. ClickCon is coming up in August. WPPI is in August. The New York show hopefully is going to happen in the fall. As we start to get back into that, and this is more for the listeners than the three of us talking here, everybody needs to remember that the only way you're going to grow is to step outside your comfort zone. And it's fine to have your favorite speakers because you want to go hear their program. Mm-hmm. But if you've heard it 10 times before and you're going to hear Will because he's a great teacher and you love him and he's funny, Don't forget that Will is also out there looking for workshops that are going to help him grow. So in order for this whole industry to get stronger, everybody's got to mix it up a little. And that's why I always tell everybody, when you go to any conference, pick one program a day that's totally outside your comfort zone, just completely different from something that you'd normally do.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a big factor. I mean, even when, our friends, when they have workshops, I'm constantly pushing their workshops out. So I think it's a key factor, sharing the knowledge. So if you guys ever see me on social media, hey guys, look into this workshop coming up, I'll personally be there as a student. There's a reason why I'm taking that workshop. So just come, don't think about it. Like Roberto's workshop is in May 16 to the 19th of 2022. I'm definitely going to be going to that. And I'm also going to bring my wife and my family because it's going to be a great experience going out there. So Skip, hopefully you could come. All right.
Where is it?
It's going to be in Tucson. He does it. He's been doing it for the last 6 years. And this year they had really great speakers. They had Joe Grimes. They had Jennifer Rosenbaum. They also had an amazing retoucher. I feel like I'm going to butcher his name, but yeah, you'll find it. I'll share it again on my social media, so make sure to follow. But they're going to have different speakers next year. So if you guys can, just take the time, invest in yourself, most importantly. So don't forget about the reason why you got into this industry. You fell in love with photography. But don't get so caught up with the money situation, because the money will always come, especially when clients see your passion and what you're doing for them. So firm believer about education.
And coming off of this pandemic, as we work through it, I think being able to gather in person, have these workshops in person, is something that we'll never take for granted again. It's something that is so, so special. And we've mentioned the pandemic a couple times, and I can't help but ask, I'm so curious, especially with you living in New York, Manhattan of all places. How did you navigate the pandemic when things were really locked down? Like, how did you have your business survive?
Well, being transparent, I think you guys already know it. Skip knows that very well. I was in a depression, to be very transparent with you. I think, how many Zoom parties can you do?
Right. Yeah.
There was one night that I was my wife, and we had a Zoom party, and, I was constantly connecting with my couples, my clients, and, my corporate clients, just checking up on them, not asking for work, not asking for money, just seeing how everyone was doing. But for me, as you could tell, I'm a very social person, and for me, not seeing someone in person, hugging them, I'm a big hugger. And I was like, I think we had 2 bottles of wine, but I was like crying. I was like, this is some BS. Like I knew something was coming, ever since 2008, who knows, the stock market again crashed, but no one expected this. So this definitely affected the world. As for the business part, I think it was, a couple of weeks later, I just kind of snapped out of it. For me, I'm really big into like inspiring quotes and watching inspiration. And, I have a great circle of amazing, positive friends. I think that's the most important thing, is surrounding yourself with people that want to grow, that want to help you grow, and vice versa. And I think people these days, they just, they try to just jump on the bandwagon and, do a pity party. Again, there's nothing wrong with throwing a pity party, but you got to eventually snap out of it. But for me, I went out, I started doing more personal projects for myself. I joined some Facebook group pages. One of them were Michelle Celentano's Facebook page, and we all started doing like personal projects. And there was one personal project I did, it just snapped me out of it. It's on my Instagram pages. And you'll see it's with like an American flag. This is during the time when it was really bad in New York, and that was it. I got back into my mode. I started working on things I never thought I'd be working in, more of the administrative work, things I wanted to organize, my pricing, updating my pricing. Like I literally went back to my pricing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna raise up my pricing. it was, and surprisingly, which was crazy, that I had like new incoming potential customers, and they were like done. They were booking left and right, which was great. And don't get me wrong, in the beginning it was a struggle because we were still trying to get used to this whole Zoom world. So I had to create like these cool presentations, because I'm a very in-person person. I don't know if that makes sense. But bringing albums, showcasing wall art, showcasing our portfolios on site. So doing that online and creating this cool presentation, I had to spend hours on. So it was exciting in that part. But we had to think outside the box. There's only so much you could complain and whine about. So, but I gotta admit, there's a lot of people I know that wasn't that fortunate to be in this planet anymore, and I saw a lot of friends went into depression. So, it was really up to, I guess, not only me, but people around me that really helped me get out of that funk. But I also had to be ready for it because my mind wasn't ready at the moment, and eventually it was. So, but yeah, I worked on myself. I never thought I guess just like anything else, when you go see a therapist, like a psychologist, or you just get to talk to your animal, your fur baby, it's you're working on yourself. So I definitely worked on myself first before I could really focus in on my business, and then I could help out others. So yeah. So once I felt like I was ready, then I started reaching out to my peers in the industry. How can I help you? So that was a big thing. So for me,
I love your transparency, because I mean, you want to talk about depression. Yeah, it was. I know you were not the only one. Obviously, I mean, we all went through that. And with you being in New York and Manhattan in the thick of things, I'm in Michigan, so I can only imagine what that was like. But I love that you pointed out that you were checking up on your clients, just seeing how they were doing. I mean, I think that is huge. Not necessarily asking for work, but even in the midst of your depression, you were checking in with them, touching base, showing that you care. And I'm sure that went a long way with your clients.
Oh my God. Like, a lot of my clients own restaurants in the city, lounges. And I just reached out. I even, got into community pages. I'm like, guys, if you're looking to order food, come and order here. I'll pick it up. My wife and I did that several times. And,
I love it.
Just giving back, it's like you can't, it's people like to take, but they don't like to give back. And for me, I always been like a giver, which that ended up biting me in the butt for many years. But it's a learning experience like anything else. I mean, what I definitely learned during that lockdown, and sometimes you just got to say no, and sometimes you got to say, you know what, I have to be a little bit selfish. And I want to say, not let me just take, but you need to learn how to say no, and you need to take a step back. And you know what, this person really that you're working with, they just want the shortcuts. They don't really want to learn the process. They don't want to learn the format. They just want that easy answer or to be money handed to them, and they don't want to work for it. So I learned that a lot because, over the years, like everyone gets burnt or screwed over, and it's a horrible feeling. And I know you guys have. I mean, you guys been through that. Everyone has been. So if you haven't, then God bless you. So.
Well, I'm the old fart between the three of us here.
Hey, I wasn't gonna listen. So.
Yeah, I know, but you were hanging out with Roberto, and Roberto reminds me all the time. This was something that nobody saw coming. Although there is a YouTube video of Bill Gates talking about it going back, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, of the possibility of what would happen with a worldwide pandemic. But the reality is that, I mean, people would say to me, "So what do you miss?" And I'd say, bumping into people, literally. I mean, you lose that contact, and Sheila and I are in that older age group, so we literally, I mean, we hunkered down and we stayed home, and I've got less things that would be a problem than she does with asthma and a couple of other things. So, 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings, I'd go do the food shopping, and come back, and it just became, the isolation became just deafening. And one of the things I noticed, and I don't know if you guys watched it, but the Vax concert that was on a few nights ago, it was just fun to watch. And it was fun to watch because of all the people in the stadium that were in the crowd that were there celebrating. It's time to get back out. It's time to make the vaccine available to people all over the world. And I don't want to get into the political discussion of misinformation out there on the vaccine. But seeing everybody out again really gave me this great feeling of hope in terms of, hey, this is the way we've got to be. The photo industry is a micro version of the rest of the world. It really is a relatively small industry. We've all gone to the same conventions and rubber chicken dinners together. Odds are you can pick any person in the industry and play the 5-6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon game and connect to somebody like Tony Corbell and just keep working it back. And there's so many people in this industry that care about it, that just said, all right, it's ugly, but we're not going to let it die. And that's what imaging does. And that kind of takes me over to a side question, because coming out of the pandemic, everything is a little different. There is a much stronger sense of family now. And I'm curious about trends that you might be seeing, Will, from the client side. I mean, we're always talking about trends that photographers, that educators are seeing in terms of where photographers need help. But what's hot right now with clients, both commercial and more portrait social?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't been really following the trends or what's out there, and the reason why is like I said, I've been focusing more on my clients. Building that relationship, that rapport.
Let me ask it a different way.
Yes, please.
What are some of the things that you're doing with your clients that they love the most?
I've been really more connecting with them as look, that's one thing I learned. And my wife, since we started dating, I never been in New York more than 2 weeks out of the month. So when we were in that lockdown, we definitely connected a lot more. I got to see, my wife's an educator. She's a teacher for kindergarten and ESL. So when she was in lockdown, when she was teaching, I really fell even more in love with her because I saw the passion that she has for teaching. I saw that, the struggles that she had with the kids, and, she also teaches kids with disabilities, and I really admire that. And that was one of the points that I love the most about being home and spending time with my fur baby, as he's about to start barking in a second. Relax. That it was like family is everything. I mean, it really was. I mean, we take things for granted, and I connected more with my mother, my sister, and it's like we're photographing all these people, we're photographing all these families, but I'm not doing that with my own family in that way. I'm not connecting with them. So ever since when things started letting up a little bit more, just finding things how I could bring more families together, and that's what I started doing, asking them the right questions instead of just trying to shoot. So connecting with them more. And since I started doing that, not only that they appreciated that, I saw more of a connection with themselves, and also as selling products, people started buying more wall art, bigger sizes. They started already booking in advance for certain sessions a year. Not only one session a year for a family session, now there's 2 or 3 of them sessions a year just for the same family. They're flying me out. So, and they really, all the testimonials that we've been getting is like, thank you so much for actually, being there for us. So I think if I never went through that, I guess, dark time or being in that lockdown, and look, people might find this, they might get offended, they might not. For me, I think personally I needed a reset. So the whole COVID situation, it brought a lot of tragedy, but it also brought a lot of blessings at the same aspect. I mean, I did family when it came to the whole COVID-19, but it also brought a lot of blessings in my life and my family and my clients. So what have I been doing is connecting more, and by you connecting more and showing that you really care, you get rewarded with a nice bank account, if that makes sense, to be honest with you. And I tell my clients, I'm like, you're gonna be spending a lot more money after this session. She's like, I already know, Will. I get it. I see what you're doing, and I'm so happy. So let's just do it. I'm like, okay. So that's what I've been doing a lot of my clients, and also with the commercial work and the corporate, same thing. So it just immersing yourself in whatever you're doing more. That's what I've been doing. I hope I answered that question.
Oh, you answered it. Are you kidding me? You answered it. It was perfect. I couldn't have scripted that better. But just to remind everybody listening, this podcast airs before Father's Day. Now, Mother's Day is already over, but I want everybody to think about, what do mom and dad miss the most? What do grandma and grandpa miss the most? and have they missed the most over this last year? And it's their families. Yeah. So the opportunity to bring families together, the opportunity to use your blog to talk about, use Throwback Thursday, for example, and get mom thinking about, hey, maybe it's time for a new family portrait. It's perfect right now. And there shouldn't be anybody out there that can't sell some family portrait work. First for Mother's Day, and if you're already past, we are already past it and you missed it, but you've got Father's Day coming up. You've got graduations coming up, and for the first time in a year or more, the graduations are starting to open up a little bit. Limited on attendance. It's not going to be like it has been in the past, but it's those baby steps as we come out of this. And I love your comment about, it's been tragic, it's been painful, it's been depressing, but there have been some blessings in there.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And, Will, I'm curious. So in our pre-interview chat, we were talking about possible past failures, how we might talk about past failures. And I want to ask about that for you.
Yeah, sure.
And let me preface this by saying I've made every mistake in the book in my photography business, so I'm certainly not picking on you, but I love when photographers share their past failures, or if you want to call it struggles, because that's how we learn from each other. And I love how transparent you are. And so I'm curious if you'd be willing to share maybe a couple past lessons or failures or challenges, if you want to call it that you've had to overcome in the past, and what you've learned from that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a very trustworthy person, so I'm happy to share. It's not, it's anyone that says their business is successful, there's always going to be some kind of detours they went through in order to get to where they are today.
Yes.
So I'm kind of happy things did happen in the past, like. I wish when I was younger, I learned how to really write a checkbook or learn business. I mean, I think anyone that gets into the industry, they should, yes, the lighting is sexy, the posing is sexy, but everyone stays away from business. And, I thought I knew business, and I really didn't until I started educating myself in the business world, not only in photography business world, but I purposely started taking other business courses, real estate, corporate business, you name it. But I think one of my biggest shocking was one of an accountant that I hired that really took advantage of, I guess, our situation and, didn't really follow through in what they were hired to do. And that put us in a lot of debt. I was about to lose pretty much everything because I trusted this company. Wow. And to really manage my money. And for me, I'm the kind of person, I personally don't like when clients kind of, they come and negotiate my pricing. I just, these days it's kind of, I'm very fortunate where I am today. I don't really have that issue because you have to set a standard and give an example why you're negotiating. You're not going to negotiate going to a dentist for a copay, right? Because that's the copay. Yep. So, I'm very, exactly how I'm transparent being with you. I'm the same exact way with my corporate clients, wedding clients. Doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I really got myself into some debt because of that, because I got in trouble with taxes, and supposedly everything was taken care of. So didn't know exactly where the money was going, but they were charging me all this money a year to take care of my finances and take care of taxes. And next thing you know, I get a nice bill or penalty from the government. So imagine that, like you're supposedly you're successful, and next year, you're really not, even though people remind me I am, but you just trusted people too much. And you should be always double checking, what you're doing. You should be double checking your team members. You'd be checking anything. So just like in life. So that really sucked. But thankfully, I had people around me that really were there for me. Like my wife was really there for me because I'm the kind of person that, oh, you're down and about, I'll take care of it. You need help, I'm there for you. And, I really saw during that time who was really there for me. And I'm very fortunate the people that I always surrounded myself, that they were there for me. And the people that weren't, it's now I know. So yeah, I think that was one of my biggest detours, and that was that long ago, which is pretty insane. So,
and it's amazing how many photographers struggle with the business side. In your case, you had an accountant, and so a lot of people would say you were being diligent already. in hiring an accountant that was supposed to be taking care of you and your business, and you were paying the fees for them to do that. And so I think that could happen to anyone. But, you know,
Correct.
I love your attitude about just what you learned from that and overcoming that. That's kind of what running a photography business is all about.
It was a blessing. I mean, you know, people was like, you know, what would you change from your past? I'm like, honestly, I won't, just in general, what would you change if you had to do it over again? I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't even change anything because I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I never went through those detours or those struggles. So, you know, I try to look at, you know, the glasses, you know, half full as much as I can. And look, do we all get into like, oh, optimistic, you know, pessimistic? Yeah, that's life. No one's perfect. And again, when you're a lot more positive or you try to look at the best outcome, you'll get ahead more. And that also affects your health. Think about it. If you're always miserable and complaining about things, it affects you. So, you know, I don't want to be, you know, in a wheelchair, could barely walk when I'm 60 because I'm thinking about what I could have done better. And, you know, I used to be compulsive in that way. Not anymore. I try to just, you know, help myself as much as possible. So, but surround yourself. But yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think everyone should know that business is a key factor. And I mean, there's a lot of talented, you know, business people out there in the photography industry that they sell and they make amazing money, but their photography is not up to par. And vice versa. There's talented photographers out there. I mean, some incredible photographers, and they're struggling because they don't know how to sell, how to be personable, or, you know, not having an agenda. So yeah. I mean, it works hand to hand, I guess.
That's true.
Well, you know, it's that way in every profession. I mean, Sheila and I we live in Sarasota. Now, Sarasota, most people don't know, but Sarasota County has the highest average per capita age of any county in the United States. So we've got a lot of people driving around at 11 miles an hour with their left turn signal on. And the medical community is bizarre here. There are tons of doctors, but some of them are really tough. And there are a couple of doctors that Sheila and I have both been to that we said, no, we're not using them anymore. And it wasn't that their skill set didn't match it. It was that they had absolutely no, well, I mean, everybody always calls it bedside manner. Whether it's bedside or not, they don't have the ability to communicate. Mm-hmm. And they're just nasty people. Or there was one cardio guy that I was recommended I see. And after 2 hours of waiting, I told the receptionist I was going to leave. And they said, oh, no, you're next. But then when I talked to him, he said, well, it's always that way because I'm in such demand. I'm sorry, but book your appointments so that it's fair to everybody. And if you need to bring in somebody else into your practice, that's another issue. And it wasn't like he was such a unique specialist that he's the only one in the area. And that's where people get so wrapped up in the dollars. And you've said something a couple times now that Clay Blackmore brought up in a podcast too. In fact, it's one of the lessons I learned from Clay years ago is don't worry, the money will come. You know, give back to your community, give back to your clients, be there for people, pay it forward, and just be, and it'll all come together. And that's what so many of your comments today are kind of proof of that. And I know we're running out of time. In fact, we're out of time technically, but it's our podcast, so we can
keep talking. Right?
Yeah, we'll just keep talking. I want to know, just to wrap it up, before Shamara's got her favorite last question, I want to know if you got anything special coming up in terms of workshops, where you going to be, what's going on online.
Yeah, I mean, this year I'm not really focusing so much on the workshops. Like I said before, I just really want to focus more on the business. Plus, I have like a new adventure in our business. It's a new division that we started working on for the last few months in the bodybuilding world, fitness. I've always been involved with that, but I've been focusing more on that. So a lot of my energy is going into that. But I think probably the next time I'll be speaking, it will be at WPPI as of now. Not sure what dates because the schedule hasn't came out. And I most likely might be at ClickOn speaking as well. But again, it all depends on my schedule. So, but make sure to follow. We'll be posting stuff on there as well. So, yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you, but yeah. So you'll see me around, I guess, eventually. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to hit our favorite final question, and it's kind of a loaded question given everything going on right now. But what advice do you have for any new photographers just starting out today?
Well, if you guys weren't paying attention throughout the whole thing,
I know, right?
learn how to listen. That's one. That's guaranteed. Yeah, learn how to listen. Take in. Stop talking so much. Stop bragging about, what you do, what you shoot. And I think these days, that's all we hear is people talk about. I mean, you never know who you're going to meet. So be very careful what you say at that. Because, when they say fake it till you make it, you can't really pull that off these days anymore. So, again, learn as much as you can. Assist. Reach out to your local photography studios and just, hey, listen, I want to, say I want to come and assist, whatever I could do, be a coffee boy, a coffee girl. That's how I started. And still to this day, and this always shocks people, even my colleagues, even my own team members, I still go and assist other photographers. I still go and be a bag holder. Whatever it is, because I want to see what are people doing? What are things not to do? What things, what I should be doing? Or what things can I add to my arsenal? It could be one thing. It could be 10 things. So just like when I teach workshops, as long as you could take one of these things and apply it to your workflow, I did my job right. Doesn't mean I know it all. I really don't. I'm just showing you what I do on the field for my real clients. All right. It's not like, hey, this is what I used to do 10 years ago or 20 years. No, this is what I'm doing now. So take the time, do the research, learn, be open-minded. And when you feel like, if you can help someone in need, do so, but always in a positive way. Try not to belittle people in any way, because at the end of the day, we're on this earth for several reasons. So you want to be remembered in a positive manner. So if we haven't learned anything at all from last year, then you have not been paying attention. So, yeah.
Well, your line about listening more, there's a great line. You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so listen twice as much as you talk. How's that?
Love it.
That is good. I like that.
Not bad. You could use it.
I like that. Yeah. Who'd you take that from, huh? Who'd you steal that from?
I probably stole it from Roberto. Actually,
yeah.
Roberto is one of my best lessons yet from Roberto. Is his line about practice doesn't make perfect. What if you're practicing it wrong?
Mm-hmm. He's such a talented guy, man. It's funny. He just messaged me on Instagram. He's like, "What are you up to today?" That's funny.
Well, all right. After we have disconnected from this podcast, I will give you a Roberto story that you can bust his cookies about.
Oh boy. All right.
Okay.
Good, noted. But
this is awesome.
So guys, seriously, thank you so much for having me on this. It's really an honor, and hopefully you guys, your listeners out there, definitely, appreciate what these guys are doing. I mean, this is like free education, which is awesome. So, be appreciative.
So, Will, I want to make sure and ask, where can folks find you online?
Just go on Google, type in my name, and I'm sure some of my social media stuff will pop up. I'm not really that active on social media. I'll post here and there, but you could tell some of my business and personal is mixed in together. But it's just Will Cadena. Again, I'm not active. I know people are like, oh, well, this guy is, if he's so busy, why doesn't he have more pictures and more followers? My clientele does not come from social media. Again, I want to create the best experience for my clientele. So this is why 92% of my clientele comes from referrals. So, this is what I've been saying is create the best experience possible for your clients and have repeating clientele. So for me, that's a big factor. So yeah, you can find me in that way.
And Skip, where can folks find you?
It's always the same answer. Everything I write is at skipcohenuniversity.com, but you'll also find me at Skip Cohen on Facebook and Skip Cohen on Twitter. And my email is skip@MEI and the number 500.com. And if you've got any feedback for us on shows, on guests you'd like to have us on, we want to hear from you guys. And I always ask the same question again. Shamira, where do they go to find you?
Yes, they can send me an email at shamira@photofocus.com. That is my first name, Shamira, CHAMIRA, @photofocus.com. As Skip mentioned, we love getting feedback, ideas. It shapes how we move forward with the show. And it really helps us find amazing guests for this show. And speaking of amazing, Will, thank you again. This was just awesome.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Really good stuff.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me.
And we want to thank our listeners for joining us as well. Please tell your friends about this podcast, especially if they have the burning desire to bring their photography business up to the next level in 2021, 2022, and beyond. We look forward to having you with us next time on the Mind Your Own Business podcast, brought to you by Photo Focus and Skip Cohen University.